All right, welcome back. This is basic parts practice number 3. All right, so I told you in the very first video that one of the things I like to do is I like to give myself the view that is going to give me the fewest part or the fewest number of extrusions. In other words, I want to get as much of the part done in step number 1 as I possibly can. Okay, so looking at this part, I've got a couple things. If I look at it from the front, I can tell it would just be a rectangle. Okay, but there's a few problems. If it's just a rectangle, I'm going to have to extrude this, so I'm going to have to cut this away. Then I'm going to have to cut all of this away back here. All right, so what about another view? Well, I could do the top view, and again, I get a rectangle, and I can cut that hole in it from the very beginning. Okay, but again, you've got a raised platform here, a lowered platform here, and then we've got something missing in the back. So again, that's not necessarily going to give me the best view of my drawing. So what I chose was this view right here. This view right here gives me this cutout in the front, and it gives me this cutout in the back. And so all I have to then do is cut this part here and drop a couple of holes in there. And that to me is the simplest way to draw it. So go ahead and create a part studio, and we are going to rename this tab down at the bottom, rename it BP3. Okay, and then we're going to start our drawing. So here is the drawing that I used for sketch number 1. Okay, let me zoom out so you can see all the dimensions. All right, so the first thing I want you to see is I want you to see that we have done something, or I've used a technique called stacking. Okay, so I have stacked my dimensions. And what that means is I have a dimension here that goes from this corner to this corner, basically this wall here. Okay, and then what I've done is I've stacked this dimension inside of this. Okay, so that's what I mean by stacking. All right, so basically we're going to draw this little S shape, and I'm not going to dimension it as I go. I'm just going to draw the general outline, and then I'm going to come back and dimension it the way that I want it to be. Okay, so grab your Part Studio, click on your right face, click on that work panel to highlight it yellow, Shift S. That'll get you started. And I'm going to make my work planes invisible to clean up my workspace. All right, so we got sketch 1 here. We're going to grab our line tool, and like I said, we're just making a simple S shape. Okay, so we're going to start at that origin point, up, over, down, over. Okay, so just a simple S. So grab your line tool. We're going to go up. Doesn't matter how far, we just want it to be a straight line. Over, up, make sure your lines are straight. Over, down, over, down, make sure those line up, and over. Make sure I hit my origin point so that I get that right there, and I am done. Hit the escape key, and we're ready to start dimensioning, because obviously that does not look like this. It's close, but it's not quite there. So let's start. Well, we know that our base needs to be 0.5 inches wide, and our top needs to be 0.75 inches wide. And this needs to be 0.5 as well. So 0.5, 0.5, 0.75. So I'm going to start with those. So I'm going to grab my dimension tool, and I'm going to click on this one. I'm going to bring it down. I'm going to say 0.5, and my whole part is going to shrink. Don't freak out. Just zoom in a little bit so you can see it, and adjust your things here, adjust your dimensions. Still in my dimension tool, I know this one is also supposed to be 0.5. And I know this top one up here is supposed to be 0.75. And let's see what we get. There we go. All right, so I'm going to pull this down to match this one. All right, so 0.5, 0.5, 0.75. Let's go check our other drawing. And we see 0.5, 0.5, 0.75. Now we can start working on the rest of it. So I'm going to work on this right-hand side over here. I know that my top one needs to be 1/2 inch. This one needs to be 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so grab my dimension tool. This top one needs to be 1/2 inch, so 0.5. And it's going to shrink everything down again. Oh, there we go. And then this one here, I'm going to drag it out to be equal to that one, and it's going to be 0.75. There we go. Very good. And last but not least, I know that this one here, let's come back over here and look. I think that one is 1 inch. That's exactly right, so 1 inch. So we're going to come back over here, and with our dimension tool, we will pull this one out, and we'll say 1 inch. Now we've got the right shape. Zoom in here. All right, so once we've got that, I'm going to throw this into a pseudo isometric mode by clicking on that corner. Since I drew this on my right face, I want my extrude to go back into the left, or up and to the left, I should say. So I'm going to go Shift E. It's going to try to come this way. I'm going to flip it in the opposite direction. And over here on our original drawing, I can see that my original extrude was 2 inches. So change your depth to 2 inches, hit enter again, and center it up. All right. Now let's give this thing some character. All right, so let's cut this hole out. On your right face, you're going to draw a square, a 0.75 by 0.75 square. So click on the right face of your view cube to spin it around. Click on this face right here to highlight it yellow. Shift S, that's going to start your sketch. Grab your corner rectangle, which is the letter G, and you can start from this corner or you can start from this corner. Either one, it does not matter. And we're going to bring this down. It doesn't matter, just pull it out here somewhere. 0.75 wide, 0.75 tall. Once you've done that, throw it back into your isometric view. Shift E. And again, we want to remove material. And how far we're going to remove it is, I don't remember, so I'm going to look at my drawing. I think it's 0.75. So let's find out. It is 0.75. So we just drew a cube. So we're going to change our depth to 0.75. And we're going to hit enter and enter again. And we basically have our part completed, minus the holes. So now we just need to draw or cut a couple of holes in our part, and we're good to go. So for sketch number 3, I just drew a hole on the front face of our part. All right, so this dimension here, this is our diameter. That's the 0 with a line through it. That tells us that it's the diameter. And then I measured a few things here, and I'll tell you about those in just a minute. So grab your front face, click on that, click on the front face of your part and start a sketch. Grab your center point circle, draw yourself a circle, and it's going to be 0.25 inches in diameter. Hit enter. Move this around so you can see it, and you can hit escape. And then you can actually click and drag this diameter to get it out of the way, move it so that you can see, and it gives us a better view. All right, so now we need to dimension this where it's going to be in relationship to the walls, okay? So I know, just from looking at that graph paper, that this from the center of this circle to the top of the wall is 0.25 inches. I also know that from the edge of this circle to this left-hand wall is 0.25 inches. Okay, so grab your dimension tool, that's the letter D, and I'm going to click on my center point, and then I'm going to click on this top wall. I'm going to slide out here to the left, and I'm going to say 0.25 inches. And then I'm going to click on the outside of my circle. Now, it can be anywhere on the outside of the circle. It does not matter. Okay, so the outside of this circle to this wall over here, and I'm going to pull it up here to the top, and that's going to be 0.25 as well. That's going to get my circle exactly where I want it. I'm going to click my corner, then I'm going to extrude, so Shift E. I'm going to want to remove material, and I want it to go through all. And I can zoom around and I can see that it did exactly that. And I'm going to hit the green check box and throw it back into isometric, and I'm good to go. For our final hole, we need to draw a hole, or we need to cut a hole in the top of our part. So for sketch number 4, we're going to our top plane. And again, it's basically the same measurements, 1/4 inch all the way around. 1/4 inch. Now on this one, it was a little bit different though. Okay, it was a 1/4 inch from the center point to this outside wall, and it was a 1/4 inch from the center point to this top wall. So we had the same point of measurement on both of those. All right, whereas the other one, we were going from the outside. This one, we're measuring to the center of the hole. All right, so click on the top of your view cube to rotate it around. I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to click my top face, start a sketch, grab your center point circle, put it in here, 0.25, hit escape, and then pull your dimension down here so you can see it. And now we're ready to dimension. And remember, we're measuring from the center point of the circle to our outside walls. So dimension tool, center point of the circle, center point of the circle to this outside, and that's going to give me 0.25. That's what I want, 0.25. And from the center point to this outside wall, that one is also going to be 0.25. And we're going to hit enter. All right, once we've done that, click on our view cube, extrude, Shift E, make sure we're removing, and we're going to remove through all, and we can zoom around and see that we did. Click that green check box, throw this in isometric mode, and we are done with basic part number 3. All right, so again, make sure that you rename your tab, basic part number 3. And make sure you rename your part, basic part 3, BP3, BP3. All right, BP4, that's where we're headed next.